Hey there, welcome to another episode of AA3K on the go. I've been on the quest to try to find a better performing, or at least an antenna, a wire antenna that would tune up better or more easier on my portable D expeditions for parks on the air and just general having fun while camping. I currently mostly use for a wire antenna a Ultimax D Extreme 33 foot. And the antenna, or I should say that antenna, definitely notes you need to use a tuner on all bands. And I find with my MFJ 939 tuner, it can be a little bit squirrely on 40 meters. Does not load up well at 80 meters because it's just too short at 33 feet long. So I've recently also gotten a ICOM 7300 for portable use, and that built-in antenna tuner is limited to 3-to-1, and it really does not like the Ultimax 33 feet on 20 meters. I have to go into its tuning emergency mode, which limits its output to 50 watts, but does increase its range. So I have seen a lot written about end-fed half-wave antennas that have 49-to-1 transformers to help feed the antenna. So I found on eBay by TennTennas a 49-to-1 pre-made matching unit that is good for 100 watts. So it wasn't too expensive. I ordered it, came in about a week or so, but I have not tuned it up yet. I have trimmed up 66 feet of 14 gauge wire here, added an extra 6 inches, made a loop at the end, and put the insulator at the end, but I haven't trimmed it down to be resonant in at least the 40, 20, 15, and 10 meter amateur bands. So I'm going to do that today. Set this up. Currently have an Ultimax 88 foot antenna, which does perform much better and does tune up much better all the way to 160 meters. But we'll see how this goes. One other thing is I did some research in regards to counterpoises for these end-fed half waves. I've seen cases where just making sure that the coax is long is a good way, but this also has a attachment point for a counterpoise wire, and a little bit of research on the web turned out a 7 feet would be good through 40 meters. So I made up a 7-foot length with an eyelet at the end, just crimped on. I tend not to solder these as well as crimp because the solder makes its way down the wire, and as you flex it while putting it up and putting it down, eventually it just cracks off. So the crimping should hold a lot longer, and since this antenna is not going to be staying outside for any great length of time, it won't be a problem with weathering. I may throw a dab of silicone on the end, so if it does get a little spritz of rain on it, it doesn't soak its way down into the wire there. Okay, back with you shortly, and I'll show you the antenna setup for tuning. Okay, so here is my current antenna I've been using at home to replace my vertical that's primarily used for 40 and 80 meters. That is, well, the vertical is absolutely fine. The problem is the support structure, which was an old wooden swing set, was kind of reaching its point where it probably was going to come down the hard way, so I removed the vertical from it and took the swing set apart and have been slowly cutting it up. So to get onto 160, as well as have something for 40 and 80 meters, I threw this up, and it performs very well. My Elecraft K3 has no problem running its tuner to get a match, at least at 100 watts. I have not tried this with a higher power level, as I do have an amplifier that'll give me a kilowatt easily, mainly because I'm just running RG8X cable. I need to dig out some heavier coax, which I do have, and sneak it into the house so I can connect it to the station. That may be a little separate project this afternoon. So currently I just have this on the stake in the ground to get the Ultimax about 6 feet up off the ground. It's actually a little bit less than that. Maybe I should find some taller stakes. And the line is going all the way up into the tree over there. You can just see the reflection off the line. So I'm going to drop this antenna temporarily and put the TennTennas end-fed half-wave up and start getting it tuned. So I've set up the TennTennas matchbox. The wire is going up to the tree again. Not sure how much you can see with the sun setting a bit more. And installed the counterpoise Just dropped it down, ran it through a hole in the bottom of this post that I am using to kind of keep it straight. This 14 gauge THHN house wiring that I got at the hardware store tends to be springy until you've uncoiled it and recoiled it a few times in the warmth. I also have my Rig Expert AA55, which excellent device, maybe a little bit large for field use, but you can get the graph of SWR. The blue area just above that triangle is the 10-meter band, and 10, 12, up through 40. It's not that far out. I will have to shorten the wire a little bit, which I will do off camera, but I will first remove the counterpoise and also step back. And I have about a 15, maybe 20 feet length of coax here. I want to get away from having any interference on the antenna, and I'm going to take the counterpoise off and see if it makes a big difference. But 1.23 at 27.55 or 56 megahertz, that is not bad at all. Heck, might be good for the CB band. Okay, let me take that counterpoise off and see if it makes a big difference. Back in a moment. So, needless to say, I mentioned the springiness, and as soon as I undid the wing nut holding the counterpoise on, it slipped off and just sprang to the ground quickly. So, rescanning it, 27.56 megahertz, just about the same, not a big difference. I think I will continue the testing just with the counterpoise. 7 feet is not hard to deal with and set up, and I am going to shorten the antenna by probably at least 6 inches to start with. So this Rig Expert AA55 also has a multi-SWR mode where you can program in up to 5 frequencies and it'll scan them for SWR. Currently still a little bit high on 40, 20, 15, and 10. And I did not get a shot at what it was before, but I'm going to trim some more. I've taken 6 inches off. I'm going to take another 6 inches off and keep going until we get a good set of readings here. The frequencies, at least for 40, 20, 15, and 10, are roughly in the middle of the phone bands. 10 is favoring, as you can see, lower end of the phone band, where a lot of activity, including technician activity, can occur. Okay, another 6 inches off. Scanning. 1.5 and 15 meters. 2.1 at 40. 2.2 at 20. 1.74, a little bit high in 12 meters, but hey, we can deal with that. And we're getting there. So I've taken a total of about 1 foot of wire off the original 66 feet. So I'm going to go for another 6 inches and see where that takes us. So with another 6 inches, and I might have lost count whether I have now 1.5 feet or 2 feet taken off, I am down to 1.92 on 40 meters, 1.99 on 20, 1.34, 1.3940 on 15 and 10 respectively. That is not bad. The 7300 tuner would definitely handle that. Now my question is do I want to take another 6 inches off? Will that bring 40 and 20 down closer to like 1.5? But that may shoot up 15 and 10. Go for it. I can always splice some line back in and pray it doesn't rip apart because solder is not strong. So, with about 2, maybe 2.5 feet of wire off, we have 1.79, 1.8 on 40, 1.6, 20, 1.05 on 15. You cannot cry about that. 1.2 on 10. Do I want to take another couple of inches off? I do not think so. I'm going to need to strain relief the end at the transformer, so that will cause a doubling over and should effectively shorten it a little bit. Needless to say, I can always take things apart and shorten it down just a little bit more. But I think we're calling this one a winner, and definitely the MFJ and the tuner in the 7300, they will have no problem finding a match for these values. 12 meters is a bit out, but that can be expected. While that can be a relief during parks on the air activations, during, say, contest weekends, I guess we can always try to find use the emergency mode in the 7300 and still get by with tuning that. So let's see about strain reliefing and putting a terminal on and see what the final numbers are for this antenna. So I am using these, try to get a better focus there, 3/32 inch swaging ferrules. Likes to focus on the tree better. I have not swaged it down, but I have created this loop here and the drop down to the terminal I crimped on. It's going to the side connector. I do need to cut that tag line of copper off, but I have a much closer cutting wire cutter down the basement. Crimping tool will not cover that. So let's see where the SWRs fall, and hopefully I'll be able to cinch that thing down and call it a day. And with the quick link there going to the tab on the box, I'll be able to take the wire off completely and roll it up separately from the antenna. I'm sorry, from the matching box. Okay, what do we got here? We got 1.7, 1.44, 1.16, 1.26. I am calling this done. Just a smidge high on 40 meters. But the auto tuners, really the auto matchers in the 7300 and my MFJ 939 will do the job easily. And 15 and 10, which are coming alive with the new sunspot cycle, I can run without the match and save myself just a little bit of power getting it all into the antenna. Heck, 1.7, I can probably run that straight on 40 meters. We'll have to give it a try. Can't wait to get this into the field. Downside to this thing being almost 66 feet long, I'm going to measure out the final value for you, is that it just takes a little bit more room to set up. You can kind of do these as an inverted V, getting the antenna wire itself over a branch and coming back down. I have not tried that. I have a friend who has tried that, and it worked very well for him. So we shall see in the field. All right, let's swage it down and get a measurement on how long the total wire is. And the sun is setting. So we ended up with a grand total. What is the number? 65 2.5 inches loop to loop on the wire. And we have quick measurement here. So we got about 4.5 inches for the loop at this end. Measuring the entire antenna length loop to loop, so loop at the far end going to the insulator and loop at this end for the strain relief, and then going to the matchbox. It's 65 feet 2 inches long. The tag end of the loop at the far end is about 2.5 inches long, that loops around itself, and as you saw with the swage. And on the antenna end, or I should say the matchbox end, that is about 5 inches there, give or take. Now, your tuning of the antenna will vary a little bit based upon the wire you use, the insulation on the wire, if it's thinner wire or thicker wire. I think 14 gauge is a good compromise for a 100-watt station. It does end up to be maybe a pound worth of wire that you're carrying around, but not doing mountain topping with 100 watts for POTA, just for the amount of effort to carry a radio up that is capable of 100 watts and such. And I know not everybody has a swaging tool, as I just happen to have right there. So you can find strain reliefs or to create loops and cables that are basically kind of like a figure 8 metal plates, and use a nuts and bolts to clamp the two pieces of the plates together to create the tension on the wire, and that will work quite well also, especially if this is only meant as a temporary installation. A longer term installation, you may then want to wrap the wire around itself to generate a little bit more tension and prevent things from slipping. So I will give a report when I get this antenna out in the field someday. And until then, 73, and don't be afraid to get out in the field and operate your radios. Amateur radio is a contact sport. Get out there and make a contact. 73 once again.